I love a lot of things in this world, and Star Wars ranks among my top 10. I love the movies and the TV shows.
Bullshit. Bullshit. Derivative. That I love. I absolutely love.
Okay, so I love some of the movies and the TV shows more than others, but the one thing I love the most about Star Wars is the games. You name them, I've probably played them. I still got my Lego Star Wars 1, 2, Complete Saga, Clone Wars. I got all the Force Unleashed stuff over there. Me and my brother, we still play Star Wars Battlefront 2 on our PlayStation 2 just to see who could win in Galactic Conquest. I got addicted for a bit to Star Wars The Old Republic back when it was coming out. I mean, can you blame me? Like, those trailers are so cool. When you got Malgus over here pulling off all sorts of crazy stuff with jumping over the lightsaber too. It's so cool. I'm also a Star Wars Episode 3 game enjoyer. I tried to play Knights of the Old Republic. Whoa. Hey. Okay. Look, I'm a narrative designer and writer, okay? I love stories in games. KOTOR has a great one. Revan, used to be my favorite character in all of Star Wars. But, seriously, can someone explain to me how they played these games without swallowing a lightsaber emitter? I desperately, I need to know. It makes no goddamn sense to me. This thing is way too complicated and clunky. How? Tell me how!
Apparently that's a trigger for me.
Yeah. So, yeah, I love Star Wars games, and like many, I was a disappointed man when EA only dropped 2 disappointing multiplayer Star Wars Battlefront games, led this weird campaign to make everyone believe that there was no market for story-driven single-player games, and just when all hope seemed lost for a single-player Star Wars game.
Trust only in the Force.
So, if you couldn't guess by now, I'll say it. There will be spoilers for both Fallen Order and Jedi Survivor, so if you don't want any of those, please get out of my video and go play the game. The games are really good. Go play them. Okay, so if you're still here, you've signed the non-existent contract I've created, and part of this contract is that you leave a like, comment, and you subscribe to my channel. Any infringement on it, and I send Darth Vader to your house. Don't text me, because I can do that. My uncle works at the Empire. Fallen Order's story took place about 5 years after Order 66 and the Jedi Purge. It followed former Padawan Cal Kestis and a ragtag team of survivors, including a fellow Jedi survivor, Cere Junda, a Latiro pilot, Grease Drydas, a absolutely lovable droid companion, Btw I, and the last surviving Night Sister, Merrin. We follow this ragtag team of survivors as they search for a holocron that has information on the whereabouts of Force-sensitive children in the galaxy left by Cere's lost master, Eno Cordova. Across this journey, we're hunted by the Sith Inquisitor, the Second Sister, who is actually Cere's former Padawan, and who also ends up looking for the holocron. Around the end of the game, she actually ends up with the holocron, and we have to retrieve it to protect the kids. While Cere and Cal want to use the holocron to rebuild the Jedi Order to be able to fight the Empire, Merrin brings it to their attention that if they just recruit all the Force-sensitive children, those children would end up getting hunted down and killed, just like the Jedi who survived the Purge. It might be better to leave them as is with their families. After a very, very intense retrieval of the holocron, and a pretty terrifying escape sequence from the Fortress Inquisitoris, Cal decides that Merrin is right, and he destroys the holocron, ensuring the safety of the Force-sensitive children from the Empire and trusting their fates to the Force. Fallen Order was a really great mix of new ideas set in a familiar type of Star Wars story, and now that Respawn had been accepted by the Star Wars community, they were free to go in pretty much whatever direction they wanted, and holy crap, did they take that freedom and fly with it. Before I get started on the game breakdown, there's just a few things I want to make clear. I went into this video script after completing my first playthrough of the game, which you can watch via the link to the playlist in the description down below to get my first impressions on the game. And the footage that you see here in the video will be a mix of my gameplay from streams with some cutscene footage from various different channels that unfortunately doesn't have my beautiful face, so sorry. The reason for this as well is also because I was not 100% quiet through the cutscenes in my playthroughs. Hey, let's go! So if there is a moment where I want to show the full cutscene without my reaction to it, I'll just use the footage that I find, aside from various different sections where I show off some New Game Plus playthroughs, because I think I have a pretty cool customization of Cal, and I want to show them off. I'm also aware of the performance issues a lot of players, especially those on PC, have reported for the game. I played on PS5, so my experience was pretty good, all things considered. Like, even for most people, I was actually mad that I didn't have more bugs because I wanted to rage about something. I got FOMO on that stuff all the time in games. But also, my experience was just really good. I had a few crashes and nothing that really set my progress back. So this isn't really an excuse for the performance of the game, but more to just let you guys know what my experience with it was overall. And as of the time of recording this, Respawn has put out a bunch of patches to clear up the performance of the game on both console and PC, so things might be better by the time this goes out. Jedi Survivor, like Fallen Order, has 5 different difficulty settings available to you from the start and that you can change at any time in the gameplay from the menu. You have story mode for those that just want to experience the story and want the easiest time playing. Parry timings are really forgiving, and enemy aggression and incoming damage is pretty reduced. It's like they slap you in the face with a wet pool noodle. Jedi Padawan, this is probably the most accessible experience for anyone new to these types of games. Parry timing is still very forgiving, and enemies went to the Hollywood bad guy school of training where they really only attack you one by one, and they're very polite. It's great. Jedi Knight, you start to get more balanced as you go through for those that want adventure and some challenge. These enemies were like the C students at the Hollywood bad guy school of training. Like, they don't really get that single file is the best way to attack the hero, but, you know, what can you do? They'll gank you every now and then, and they'll kill you a bit faster. Jedi Master, now this is where you start getting into some pain. Parry timings get even smaller, and enemy aggression and incoming damage is now increased. These guys, they just skipped like all the classes at the Hollywood bad guy school. Like, they went to like maybe 5 in the whole year, but they really just didn't go to that school at all, and so they don't know how to fight you politely at all. So, you will get ganked. And finally, you have Jedi Grandmaster, and while it says it's the most difficult option, I played through it, and, you know, it was just really easy. It was, like, such a cakewalk, and there's absolutely nothing difficult about this.
Are you sure about that?
Okay!
Bruh.
You fucking donkey!
Alright. Stop. Alright. Let me go! Let me live! Okay, why did I do that? Alright. Can you put me down? Thank you. Personally, I really love how this series has approached difficulty by not making any of the enemies bullet sponges when on higher difficulties, but rather they make changes to ensure that the player is challenged on their mastery of the combat system placed before them. The higher the difficulty, the more damage the enemies do to you, but you still deal the same amount of damage to every single enemy. If you want to play on Grandmaster, you still have to get that parry timing down, otherwise you're gonna get your cheeks clapped harder than the rebels at the end of Row 1. I did both of my playthroughs on Jedi Grandmaster difficulty because, I'm just the best gamer ever to play games in the history of video games, and I also like repeatedly slamming my head into a brick wall until I beat the game on my terms because I'm stubborn like that. If you want to play the game on any of these difficulties, absolutely no shame, and screw anybody that shames you for it. That being said, if I see anyone in the comments saying that they beat any boss I struggled with in less tries, you better drop your difficulty that you beat them on with receipts, because I'm not going to let any of that disrespect fly.
Get on with it. Yes, get on with it.
Yeah, alright, fine. Sheesh. I'm going to start with my thoughts on the gameplay first, and then move on to my story thoughts later. Jedi Survivor is an improvement across the board. Fallen Order was a great foundation, but it did have its shortcomings. One of the biggest in my eyes was that Cal could feel kind of sluggish and heavy in his movement. Not really in combat, as that felt pretty much perfect, but more in the free roaming. His normal walk and run just kind of felt slow, along with his jump just having that bit too much weight to it. And I'm gonna say this right now, I miss Cal's goofy run. I don't understand why people complained about it. I thought it was absolutely hilarious, and it just kind of endeared Cal to me more. Like, here we have this badass Padawan that can tear through squads of Imperial soldiers, vanquish terrifying beasts, and defeat multiple Darksiders. And then he runs like this. It's the little things like this that I love about video games. In Jedi Survivor, immediately Cal feels more responsive and quick. The dodge roll of Fallen Order has been replaced with a double sidestep that, while it basically serves the same function as the dodge roll, it just feels safer and is way faster. You can jump out of the double sidestep, and that lets Cal feel even more maneuverable, and it kind of saved my Colo a few times. He can also just jump further distances and change directions faster. It just feels so nice. Pretty much every story upgrade for Cal in Fallen Order is also available to you right at the start. The double jump, wall jump, force push, pull, rebreather, faster climbing, and Cal's double blade upgrade returns. My personal favorite upgrade from the first game returns as well. The perfect dodge. If you time your dodge just right, Cal will literally do a slow-mo dodge to stunt on people and also regain force in the same time as an opening for an attack. I love it. Although, I am disappointed that the kick is gone. I remember bullying people in Fallen Order. That was just so much fun. I can't believe they gave us an achievement for that. The stim system returns as well. You start with 2 stims that can be upgraded to a total of 12 should you explore enough and find all the goodies the game has to offer. The checkpoint system is also pretty much the same. Find a meditation point and the game will autosave, and you can upgrade your skills, change perks here now, which I will talk more about later, and rest. Resting returns all your stims, health, and force, but also respawns all the enemies. Now, this leaves all the new abilities, and for the sake of brevity and the length of the video as well as my sanity, I won't go over all the abilities in too much detail, so let's hit the lightsaber combat abilities. There was a bit of a running joke through the community back when Fallen Order came out that Cal was the Swiss Army Jedi, and that is basically true in this game. 3 new lightsaber stances have been added to the game, giving Cal access to 5 stances in total. Each stance has its own skill tree, along with stats showcasing the strengths and weaknesses, and while each stance is pretty good in every combat scenario, they do all have their own specific playstyle that they excel at. You have Single Blade. This is the jack-of-all-trades stance with the most balanced stats and can handle duels and ganks pretty well, with a surprising amount of acrobatics in there to help you close the distance with different enemies. The Double Blade stance is now more defensive stance and also excels at dealing with crowds, specifically multiple blaster-wielding opponents. There's nothing more satisfying than walking into a room and just clearing it out with that block. The Dual Wield stance, this is brand new and is geared around constant offense. It's also the only stance that allows you to animation cancel into a block, really going hard on the overly oppressive offense. It'll break enemy stances super fast. It also brings back the signature goofy Cal Kestis run, so, automatically the best stance. The blaster stance gives Cal access to a sidearm, allowing you to become the gunslinger Jedi that you've always wanted to be. It's geared around long-range play mixed with getting in close for quick close-range attacks to rebuild the blaster charge. Every time you fire, the blaster goes down. Every time you hit someone with your lightsaber, the charge will refill. It also has its own Rebel Guard mechanic with the point-blank skill, where if you press triangle at the right time, you'll literally parry any attack in the game that's not a grab with a blaster mid-attack. It's awesome. Of course, it only works if you're good at it. The timing is a little different than regular parries, and it really annoys me. It's 100% a skill issue. It just still annoys me. And finally, the crossguard. The crossguard stance turns your saber into literally a heavy weapon, and it deals the highest amount of damage, but it also is extremely slow. This stance requires you to be patient and learn enemy attack patterns and timings to learn how to properly space your attacks and when to actually put them in. It's the highest risk but the highest reward stances. It's really fun. Of the 5 stances, you're limited to 2 at a time that you can switch between via the right and left D-pad buttons at any time. But if you want to switch whatever stances you're using, you have to either rest at a meditation point or go to a workstation that you can find anywhere in the maps. This is a choice that I actually really like, as it constantly made me think about my playstyle and what strengths and weaknesses I wanted to account for. While I dipped my toes into all of the stances and played around with them, the 2 that I found worked the best for my playstyle were the crossguard, because man, I really loved just smacking people with basically a lightsaber club, and the single blade for when I wanted to change the pace of the fight and move around the arenas faster and safer. The crossguard also was just my favorite, as I really have no patience, so having something that taught me patience and rewarded me very much for it was a nice breath of fresh air. Let me know down below what stances you ended up using the most. Along with the new stances, there's also a perk system added to the game. The perks bonuses range from increasing your block meter, having your attacks be better at breaking enemies' guards, and allowing Cal to take 1 hit during healing uninterrupted, to more high-risk, high-reward perks where the parry timing is smaller, but parries deal more stamina damage to enemies, or you deal more damage to enemies, but you also take more damage. These perks all take up slots that vary from 1 to 3 depending on the bonus, and you start out with 3 perk slots available, and through exploration you can find and add more perks, totaling to a total of 10 perk slots. The Force abilities are also expanded on in the game. Confusion is added to the game, which basically allows you to encourage others to commit violence. This perk is particularly useful in combat sections where there's a lot of enemies, as it will reduce the heat out on you and gives you an ally. Force Pull also gets an upgrade where you can pull 2 enemies at a time in front of you and then use them as either meat shields, or you can combine it with Confusion and make them attack others. There's mass pushes and pulls that affect enemies in a radius, and then 2 final abilities where you can lift enemies into the air or slam them into the ground for some free damage and hits. These abilities can also be charged after upgrades to affect larger enemies or a bunch of groups. Force Slow has also been changed to be a super now. Deal enough damage and you can slow all the enemies in the area for a short amount of time that can be upgraded through the skill tree. Speaking of skill trees, whoo boy, there is 9 of them. 1 skill tree for each lightsaber stance that unlocks new abilities and bonuses for that stance, a skill tree for survival geared around maximizing your health and stims, and then 3 separate force skill trees, 1 that focuses on max force and force slow, 1 for all your push, pull, lift, and slam abilities, and then 1 dedicated to confusion. You're also given 1 free respec for your skills, which I did use in my playthrough of the game when I finally figured out which stances I wanted to focus on, and none of these skill trees are actually required to upgrade for the game. You can play through the entire game without ever having to upgrade a single ability. I don't know why you would, but if you want that extra challenge, it's there for you. The amount of abilities at your disposal really helps with dealing with all these enemies you come into contact with across your time playing, and speaking of the enemy design in this game, it's amazing. There's 2 major factions you'll be fighting for the majority of the game, the Empire and the Bedlam Raiders. The Empire is relatively unchanged from Fallen Orders, with only a few new enemy types added to the game, with these shield guys and these jetpack guys.
They fly now!
And the new Imperial baton droids, who can kindly go eat my ass, along with the BX battle droids, who can replace the Purge troopers in haunting my dreams.
Get ready for the pain, woman! The pain train is coming!
The Purge troopers do return, but they feel less like of a threat individually, but put together they can make for one hefty challenge, and I really like that. In Fallen Order, just one Purge trooper was enough to keep me on my toes, and having more of them was like a panic-inducing moment. But now, Cal has grown in his skills, and I have also gotten better at the game. So it's a really nice touch. I always love when games have the player and the character get better at the same time. It feels really satisfying. Now for the Bedlam Raiders. There is your equivalent to your regular Imperial Scout Troopers and Captains, but the Raiders have added a few new things to their numbers. The B1 battle droids return, and they're amazing. I love them so much. These guys really aren't that challenging to fight, but damn if they don't have some of the funniest moments in the game, especially the regular blaster guys. Sometimes they'll throw a detonator at you, and when they do that, there's a chance that they'll actually throw it and it'll come towards you. They'll fumble it and just blow themselves and whoever's in their radius up, or they won't be able to throw it and just suicide run at you, and it's always hilarious. The dialogue for both the B1 battle droids and the Imperial stormtroopers are really well done. More often than not, I found myself both laughing at and feeling bad for killing these guys.
Jedi, on this planet, I won't believe it until I see it.
My armor is compromised. I don't think it'll matter against the lightsaber. That isn't very comfortable.
I can't believe I'm still here. Chum for grub and the pay's a joke.
Wait, you're getting paid?
The B2 battle droids are also here, and they're the big boys of the army, which can deal some hefty damage from range and are very tanky. Then there's also the commando droids that serve as the equivalent to the Purge troopers, but their ranged guys aren't nearly as annoying. And finally, for the droids, we have the Droidekas and Magna Guards that are both pretty fun encounters to go with. The Droidekas will fire at you from your shields and will constantly roll away from you, but you can either break their shields or you can force pull them as they're trying to roll away, so you can get in long enough to kill them. The Magna Guards are great 1v1 fights that, in an amazing nod to the movies, will actually have a chance to fake you out when you perform a finisher on them and you cut off their head. They took that personally in that moment and decide you have to die even faster. As for the rest of the Bedlam Raiders, they offer a nice change of pace from the Empire being mostly pike-wielding enemies that live for the fight. There's also these big dudes that can kindly go kiss Ogdo Bogdo, and they offer a good enough challenge as giant brutes that require you to know their patterns to be successful against them. They just have a lot of health. However, my favorite enemy types in the games were the raiders that wielded lightsabers. Ooh, yeah, these guys were awesome. They usually came in 3 variants: double-bladed saber, crossguard, or a single blade with more blaster attacks and invisibility to throw you off. I think of them all, the double-bladed guys were my favorite because they would actually change up their timings by turning off their sabers and hitching you with the hilt, then turning them back on to continue the combo. It was awesome, and I always got excited to see the fight with these guys because that is literally the one move in all of Star Wars I've been waiting for somebody to do, and I know you can't do it in a game where you're playing because it's going to throw everything off, but if you do it with the enemies, it's awesome, and I love it. Adding to the unorthodox fighters, there's also the return of the Haxion Brood about halfway into the game. However, this time, there's a bit of a twist. Instead of the bounty hunters just hunting you, you get to hunt the bounty hunters with the help of Cage Vanda, a bounty hunter that supplies you with information. And these guys are a mix of the old enemies from Fallen Orders with the big shield guys, the droids, and the jetpack guys that all get nice additions to their movesets to keep them fresh, but they also added new dual-wielding blaster pistol guys to the mix with 3 final new bounty hunters that I will leave unspoiled because it's my video and the ending of the bounty hunter stuff is actually really cool. Finally, we have the assorted animals category. There's a plethora of dangerous creatures in a galaxy far, far away that I'm pretty sure they took inspiration from Australia's wildlife for because, Jesus Christ, some of these things are terrifying, and most of them are actually new additions to the game. Only in Star Wars would you find a turtle that's decided it's time to kill itself when shot with a blaster. There's also these dodo birds that I don't know what kind of steroids they're on, but can I please have some? It brought these extinct birds back with a vengeance.
Gentlemen, goodbye. What?
Upping the size ante, there's also these Wampa-looking guys that decided I was their favorite ragdoll.
Puny god.
A reskin of the Nidak from Dathomir and Fallen Order, which I actually don't mind this, and then a rhino guy that spits mud at you with a couple of rancors hidden in the game that are super fun to fight and will actually eat you if you don't avoid the grabs.
That's the wrong thing to do. Okay, please don't. What the? It didn't give me a chance.
There's a cross between an ape and a rhino that I'm still confused as to what the creature is, but it's a pretty balanced fight, and a space scorpion that scared the crap out of me when I first got to Jeddah.
Oh, great.
All of the big monsters and most of the regular enemies have legendary variants that are tougher than normal enemies and will add 1 or 2 new moves to the moveset with a few new unblockables to keep you on your toes. These guys usually guarded some nice rewards, either a stim upgrade, an XP, force, or max health upgrade, or the big daddy of them all, fashion upgrades. Of course, I can't go on from here without mentioning the hardest boss in the game who guarded the greatest treasure known to mankind. That's right, the bane of our existence in Fallen Order returns in the form of this bright green, red-eyed dick that somehow migrated across the galaxy just to guard the sexiest piece of clothing in the galaxy from me. You guys know the scene in Attack of the Clones where Anakin decides he wants to commit genocide on the Tuskens after they killed his mother?
Yeah?
Well, let's just say after 2 hours of fighting this oversized frog that I completely understand him, and I think we all gave Anakin a bad rap.
Was a hero. I just couldn't see it.
Seriously though, Respawn, whoever decided it would be a good idea to put this guy in the game, give them a raise. Honestly, it was the best jump scare I ever had in the game. Which brings me to the boss fights, specifically the story boss fights. Fallen Order had a pretty good selection of boss fights, given that its combat system was perfectly made for one-on-one duels, but it tended to struggle sometimes with other bosses, specifically the non-humanoid ones. Golgara from the first game was a really fun attempt at a giant animal boss fight that had some really cool climactic moments, but it left a little to be desired in the actual 1v1. I'm happy to report that this time, all the bosses, monsters included, are well-crafted machines with a good flow to each of them. There's nothing in any boss fight that's really unfair. Yeah, even the one-hit kill moves, because those are pretty much just big telegraphs that are easy to avoid, and if you're good enough, you can get right through these guys on the first attempt. Something I managed to do for some bosses, but not for others.
Hey, yo. Okay. Well, who's ready for another hour of this?
1 hour later.
Nearly every main story boss had a grab of some kind, and those were either easily dodgeable by jumping or dodging at the right time, or by using some of your force powers to interrupt them. Each story boss had its own unique moveset as well. Dagon, while he's not my favorite boss fight, had a really good progression of mechanics in the 3 times we fight him to keep things fresh, and I really like that. My personal favorite boss fight of the mix came from Ravis in the latter half of the game, especially his second phase. The whole fight has one of my favorite story significances in the game, where Ravis just really wants someone to fight that can finally give him his warrior's death that he's been craving for 200 years. Someone strong enough to beat him so that he doesn't have to hold back. And in that second phase, Ravis realizes that we are hot shit, like we are the one, and he just starts busting it all out. There's a bunch of delays on attacks and onslaughts in combos that really emphasize parrying or getting those perfect dodges so you can get the right openings, and it's so fun. If your reaction time is quick enough and your positioning is good in this fight, you can avoid every single attack that he throws at you. It's fantastic. And the same can really be said for all the bosses in this game. They all offer something unique to differentiate themselves from the other, and the story significances behind each of them really elevates them as well. Vader's boss fight especially was probably the best representation of Vader in a long time. This boss fight comes at probably my favorite section of the entire game, and really where the story itself, while it was already really good, kicked it up to the next level. And how Vader portrayed is just...
It's so beautiful.
You play as Seer in this section and truly feel the power of a Jedi Master in their prime as you cut down all of the Imperial soldiers coming through you. You use the Force to pull off incredible feats of power, and while Cal is really strong in this game, like, scary strong, Seer is another level of terrifying. And even after all that, when I saw Vader arrive in this temple, I still wasn't sure if we would be able to beat him.
You have grown stronger.
No, I've only let go of my fear.
Well, that's great, Seer, but I haven't. After Fallen Order, where we couldn't even touch Vader, and this man didn't even have a health bar, I think seeing Vader with a health bar in this game intimidated me more and added to my experience. I was so terrified of this boss fight. Every strike you miss a parry on from Vader sends you staggering back. His grabs will kill you if you aren't at full health, and every phase shows Vader starting to take you more seriously. And I think the moment I knew deep down that it was over for us was when we set Vader on fire. He really doesn't like that. But it's also a testament to just how well executed this boss fight and sequence was that I believed through it out that Seer could come out on top. But unfortunately, not even Seer and player agency could stop the Star Wars continuity enforcer.
What you say? Oh, that you only meant well,
Gone are the days of just a few variations of ponchos and color variants of the same outfit and some color skins for BD and the Mantis. Cal now has access to a plethora of hairstyles, beards, jackets, shirts, and pants that can be either purchased from specific shops or found in chests in the wild. But honestly, half of these options are useless because the pink poncho is just objectively the best look for Cal, and anyone who says otherwise is a fake fan. The expansion of customization doesn't just stop with Cal. There's nearly double the amount of options for your lightsaber, blaster, and BD1. Each individual piece of the lightsaber, blaster, and BD can have different colors placed on it and have the condition of the pieces be different than the rest. There's even an option to change the angle of the vents on the crossguard saber. And of course, you have the choice between 9 different lightsaber colors at the start of the game, with 2 new ones being given to you at New Game Plus, which is the red and the party saber. The party saber is awesome because it changes color every single time you attack, so you literally have a mini disco party as you're cutting off everyone's heads. So, it's a fun bloodbath. How you get each of these customization options mostly comes from exploring each of the different planets that Jedi Survivor has to offer, and whew, these planets are massive. Kobo and Jedha are the 2 biggest planets in the game, and honestly, the only word that comes to mind when I'm describing them is sprawling. So many nooks and crannies to explore that I haven't even uncovered all of it myself, and I've been playing the game nearly non-stop for weeks. The game keeps the Metroidvania aspect of Fallen Order, where as you progress through the story, you unlock different abilities that will open up different paths on the map and access to different collectibles. Where Jedi Survivor differs from Fallen Order is how it handles the main path levels. Things are a lot clearer in the level design, and while the level design of Fallen Order was really good, it could be tricky to find the right path sometimes, and Jedi Survivor just makes it much clearer on what the path to go find more goodies is and what the path that will activate the next cutscene is. So no more annoying moments where you're going, oh wait, this looks like the main path, I'm gonna go to the right side, and you see a cutscene start. It also helps that fast travel has now been added to the game, and this just makes collecting and exploring everything so much easier. Your travel time is quite literally cut in half, and it's just lovely. Fast travel also isn't the only quality of life improvement made to the map, as there's also now a little trail that will show you where you have recently traveled, so if you ever get lost, you can actually just open the map and easily retrace your steps. By the final mission of the game, you'll have unlocked every main ability needed to fully explore every single one of the 6 planets available to you, and my personal favorite new ability is the new Force Dash that opens up so much exploration and even aspects in the combat. You also get a grapple hook in there, which is just, every game with a grappling hook. Automatic 10 out of 10. They're amazing. This game is just absolutely brimming with content as well. There's a bunch of chests and resources for you to pick up. There's a bunch of NPCs out in the maps that you can recruit back to your cantina for some fun little character interactions, and even a new minigame that's actually pretty fun, and the meditation challenges that are scattered all across the game. There's always something for you to do. The meditation challenges, except for this one stupid challenge that is complete bullshit. We're an absolute blast presenting you with different challenges to test your skills on. There's also these Jedi vaults spread across Kobo that are very clearly inspired by Breath of the Wild's Sheikah shrines, and they're a really nice change of pace for the game to focus on some puzzles, as Fallen Order didn't exactly know where to put puzzles all the time, so now we have a designated area for it. I always enjoyed coming across these in my time with the game, as they really got me to think about my surroundings and my force powers. Jedi Survivor just upped the ante on all levels. It was really a blast to go through and play everything the game has to offer. Fallen Order set a great foundation for Respawn to build off of, and they built off of it. The combat expansion with the stances and new force abilities keeps all of your options open and really helps to show the progression of Cal in universe. Every combat stance is viable and caters to a specific playstyle with a bunch of different combinations to allow you to craft what kind of Jedi you want to be. The new traversal abilities pick up the slack from Fallen Order, making Cal less sluggish to move and more agile and versatile ever before. It really feels like you're a Jedi Knight in their prime. So this isn't going to be a full extensive breakdown of the plot of Jedi Survivor. If you want to watch a video like that, there is a link down below to a pretty good video that does it. But instead, I'm going to touch on the narrative elements that I really loved in this story. And this isn't me saying that there's stuff in the story that I didn't like by leaving it out. It's quite the opposite. This game's story is one of those where you just keep wanting more. And when I streamed the game, every time I ended the streams, it wasn't because I wanted to or because I felt like the story had a good place to stop. It was mostly because I streamed before my shift at work, so I literally had to stop, otherwise I'd be late. When I streamed on my day off, however, I went straight for 7.5 hours, and it's the longest I'd played games in a while, and it felt so good because that last fourth of Jedi Survivor just kept hitting. The plot of Jedi Survivor centers around Cal and the Mantis crew, along with newcomer Btw I, trying to discover a path to the lost planet of Tanalorr, which they believe could be a haven for those hunted by the Empire. And along the way, Cal gets a little obsessed, and that is one of the things that is a major theme in this story. Now, there's 2 scenes in the game that I think encapsulate this really well.
All right, listen. I know you all had your reasons for leaving, but walking away isn't an option for me. I have to hold the line.
And where's that gotten you, Cal? I wish things were different, but you keep losing people. And you yourself said that the Empire's growing stronger every day. Now maybe it's time for you to be something more than a lightsaber. Think about yourself. Settle down. Find a home.
What? Home, Grease. There is no home. Home was the Order. It was my teacher. It was everyone I lost. What does their sacrifice mean if I go and I just give up and stick my head in the sand?
I know you were dealt a bad hand, but you gotta take it from me. Somebody who had to learn the hard way. You gotta know when to walk away from a rigged game. Otherwise, you are gonna end up losing something you could never replace.
I think we might have found something special. A place where the Empire can't find us. But it would mean leaving the fight. And well, the fight is all I know.
Cal,
Look into the fire. It will warm you. Keep you company on dark, lonesome nights, yes? But left unchecked, it will consume everything in its path until there is only ash.
What Jedi Survivor does is it really focuses on what obsession does to each person, and it focuses on how that connects Cal to each of the antagonists. How this obsession that, even when backed by the best of intentions, can lead you down a dark path and mold you into someone that you and others don't recognize. It can lead you to lose everything that you love. I really love the use of this theme, as obsession is just another rung on the ladder of the dark side of the Force. Cal teeters on the edge of obsession when it comes to his drive to fight the Empire, and it's what split up the crew of the Mantis originally, and partially what leads to the death of his new crew at the beginning of the game, and ultimately it's what costs him Cere. Respawn really dialed in on what essentially being a child soldier did to Cal. Ever since the Clone Wars, he's gone from one fight to the next, obsessing about having something to push him forward. This theme of obsession also extends to the antagonists, and none demonstrates the consequences of an obsession better than Btw. Full disclosure, there are 2 more antagonists in the game, and while I really like both of them and would love to talk about them, Dagan and Ravis's impact on Cal is very well done, Ravis especially, but I will be saving them for possibly their own video. I don't know, depends on how lazy I am after this video. This has taken a lot of my time and energy. I just really want to talk about Bode right now. So, Bode is probably the highlight of the game outside of Cal, and one of the most interesting new additions to Star Wars, and possibly one of the most interesting characters in Star Wars. Initially, when you're introduced to Bode, he is that stereotypical, I do dirty job, but I have to do it to support my daughter character. He's the new guy on the block just looking for a way to keep his daughter safe from the Empire after they killed his wife. He and Cal bond over the course of the story and forge a friendship that is really genuine. Bode challenges Cal at a lot of points to really think about his life after this and to really push back against the Jedi values that were put into Cal.
So we rescue Z, get out of here, find Tanalorr, and then what?
I'm just taking it day by day.
Maybe figure something out with Merrin?
She's got her path, I've got mine.
Yeah, I've heard Jedi avoid attachment, but...
That's right.
Just don't forget who you really are.
What's that supposed to mean?
It means trust your heart. Things are only getting worse out there. Life is precious. And so is happiness.
I wish it were that simple.
It is that simple. If you see a future with Merrin, embrace it.
And it feels very genuine from Bode. There's so many moments in this story where I was suspicious of Bode because, I mean, it's really not hard to be. He's the only new character that survives the shooting gallery at the beginning.
Oh!
And because of that, my suspicion levels were off the charts of him whenever he would show up and be part of the story. But all of his lines are written and voiced with so much genuineness. I keep saying that word. I need to find something else. I'm a writer, damn it. That it really works, especially when the double twist happens with him. And, oh God, no. Wait, was it a triple twist? I was unsure if Kato was actually real until we saw her later in the story. Wait, does that make it a quadruple twist? I don't know. I'm bad at math. It's not my thing. I have a theory about this choice as well. I think that they knew that we knew Bode was going to be a bad guy and we would be sus of him because, well, you know. Oh! They knew we would immediately be suspicious of this guy and waiting for when he would betray us, so they made sure to have backup twists on backup twists to make this guy even more interesting. It's incredible how well all of this lines up. And so when Bode finally betrays us, he takes the compass to Tanalorr for his own after killing Cere's master, Eno Cordova, who, yeah, by the way, he showed up. Yeah, he's alive. Which I thought he was dead. That's another twist. And he calls in the Imperial Cavalry, including one continuity enforcer to attack Cere's base on Jedha and to ensure his escape. Seriously, this series of twists and everything that happens after is just incredibly good. I don't really think I could do it justice, but I will do my best. So, after Bode's betrayal and an incredible boss fight with Vader, and an even more gut-punching reveal that Cal had been forced to not only find Cere's dead body, but also live through her final moments because of his ability to see echoes in the Force.
My emotions! My emotions!
Bode lures Cal, Grease, and Marin, who all know it's a trap of some kind, cause duh, but see it as a worthy risk in search of justice for Cere. He leads them back to an Imperial base where Cal meets a commander called Denvik. Denvik reveals that Bode had been working for him since well before the start of the game, all the way back to the Clone Wars. After we find Bode in the base, he also reveals to us that he was a Jedi assigned to intelligence during the Clone Wars, and he used the skills he developed in those assignments to disappear when Order 66 happened. While in hiding, he met a woman, fell in love, and he lived peacefully until the Inquisitorius finally tracked him down and killed his wife while searching for him. After that, Bode's sole priority became keeping Kata safe. He returned to service for Denvik. As long as he stays useful for him, Kata stays safe. And it's because of Bode that the deaths of Cal's crew at the beginning of the game came about because of Denvik's orders, but also it gets revealed that Cere actually died because of Bode's choices, and holy crap, is that another one? Is that another twist? During the scene where Bode reveals his past to Cal, it's also revealed that his plan was to basically rely on Cal to kill Denvik so that there would be no one that could let out that he was a Jedi, and in the off chance that Cal doesn't kill Denvik, Cal serves as a suitable distraction to allow Bode to take Kata and disappear onto Tanalorr because, well, as we saw in the beginning of the game, Cal is the most wanted man in the galaxy. I mean, dude's walking around with his lightsaber displayed proudly. I think he's the best Jedi we've ever had. The thing about all these twists, too, is that all of Bode's actions are driven by an obsession to keep Kata safe at all costs. He's given up his fellow Jedi, caused the deaths of multiple innocent parties just to keep his daughter safe, and it was only done because Bode believed he was constantly running out of options. He's never been on the side of bringing others to Tanalorr, especially more people. If it helped him keep Kata safe, then it was an option he believed was worth doing. It's why he sells out Cere in the Hidden Path, and you can see that he actually does care about Cal, because in the scene before that betrayal, he tries to convince Cal that they should go to Tanalorr first and scout it out, make sure it's safe. He's doing everything he can to put this off, but in the end, Cal still wants to use Tanalorr as a way to fight the Empire, and Bode isn't going to give up a way to keep Kata safe. Unfortunately, that's what ends up getting Bode killed. Bode's death is very impactful, as it comes after Cal has finally been able to find some semblance of balance. He's no longer going after Bode to try and kill him, but to bring him to justice. Cal and Marin want to give Bode the chance to surrender for the sake of his daughter, because both know what it's like to grow up as the last surviving member of your family, and they don't wish that for Kata. So they do just that and give him a chance, but Bode has fallen too far. He's not going to listen to reason anymore. He has a safe haven for his daughter. Even if they are alone on the planet, they're safe. The Empire can't track them to Tanalorr if they stay there with no one coming and going. Cal and Marin threaten that, and Bode is far too obsessed with keeping Kata safe that he won't even listen to her.
You shouldn't have followed us.
Papa, don't!
Stay back, Kata. This is the only way to keep you safe.
Oh, it's boss fight time.
She will be safe. I promise, Bode. But listen to me. It's over.
Lay down your weapons.
This planet will be a haven for those hunted by the Empire, including Kata and you. But you have to surrender now.
Go outside, Kata.
Listen to them, please.
Whoa, bruh. Alright, final boss. A boss fight ensues, and at the end of it, we gain the upper hand on Bode and hold him at blade point. And I'm just gonna let the cutscene speak for itself here.
Don't put this on your daughter.
Bode, we know what it's like to grow up alone.
Please, listen to them, Papa.
All right.
I don't trust his
When
ass.
the Empire comes, will you be able to protect my little girl?
sorry, Kata. I tried.
Oh. Bruh. Oh, don't you dare. Oh, he avoided it. Had to be done. Don't do one more. Don't do one more.
Bode just doesn't see another outcome to this. If Cal makes Tanalorr a haven for all those hunted by the Empire, Bode believes he'll bring the Empire to Tanalorr and to his little girl. This one obsession with keeping her safe led Bode to isolate themselves and prevented him from being able to create something that could protect her from the Empire. It led him down a dark path that only brought pain and suffering for himself and Kata, because now Kata was forced to lose her father. Bode is one of my favorite new additions to Star Wars. He's such a complex character that gets even more expansion on in the Force echoes that you can find post-game. You get to see just how much he actually did care about Cal and how much he was focused on saving Kata. Bode's story is one that just fits perfectly into the main theme of the game and just shows how dangerous obsession can be when left unchecked, when you don't rely on or trust those around you, and it's also one that gets reflected on perfectly with Cal. Cal really gets the all-star treatment in this game. This is no longer Cal Kestis, alright? This is Chad Kestis. And I'm gonna be honest, I have to speak my truth. Okay, let me get a couple breaths here, gotta get it, okay. Cal has dethroned Revan as my favorite Star Wars character in all time. Cal is just that good in the game. He was already a great character in Fallen Order. He was a scrappy little survivor that made friends where he went, was humble but also kinda crazy in his antics, and always treated things with the right amount of seriousness and a fun little sense of humor. And now in Survivor, he's exactly what you want and expect from a Jedi Knight, and that is in no small part due to the journey he goes on in this game. As Seer said in Fallen Order, every Jedi struggles with the dark side, and while Cal never faced that struggle in Fallen Order himself, he now faces it in Jedi Survivor. He faces both anger and obsession in this game, and unlike Bode, Cal doesn't succumb to his obsession. Before I get into Cal's struggle with obsession, I do want to touch on his anger as well. A small detail that I loved in this game is that Cal does struggle with his anger, especially when he is confronted with loss and betrayal. But Cal has the ability, given time, to pull back from his anger and not let it control him. In the beginning of the game, after our crew gets destroyed by the Ninth Sister, Cal initially lets his anger at their deaths get the better of him, and he's ready to just fight her right there, and probably kill her, but their duel gets postponed by Imperial troopers causing a ruckus, and Cal is able to breathe for a moment, so that when he comes face to face with her later, he's no longer driven by rage.
Masana! You were a Jedi Knight before you betrayed our order. Your name was Masana Tide. It's time to set you free. Yeah. I'm okay.
Cal sees the Inquisitors as a betrayal of the Order, his family. But something I really love is that Cal doesn't kill her or anyone else in the game out of anger. He only kills for survival, or, as he puts it here, to set them free from the dark side. It's always quick and respectful, too. Cal never makes his enemies suffer, despite how angry he may be, and will always give them the respect after the fact. Cal is strong enough given the time to breathe to pull himself back, but when pushed to his limit, he does need those around him to help center him, but I'll touch more on this in the obsession part. Which is happening right now. What a segue. Can you guess that I'm a writer? Don't answer that. Cal's obsession with fighting the Empire is his main drive in this game. He doesn't see himself as more than a lightsaber. He doesn't believe stopping is an option for him because fighting is all he's ever known. But as Merrin says,
it will warm you, keep you company on dark, lonesome nights, yes? But left unchecked, it will consume everything in its path until there is only ash.
Cal slowly starts to see the error of his ways as he reconnects to the Mantis crew, and as he bonds with Bode. Grease, Bode, and especially Merrin open Cal's eyes to a life outside of the fight. Cere also plays a big role in Cal's journey, as her way of fighting is via the hidden path and restoration of the Jedi archive. She wants to make sure that the knowledge of the Jedi isn't lost forever. For as long as that knowledge remains, the Empire can't win. After watching what happens to Dagan and seeing how his obsession with Tanalorr drove him to the dark side, Cal opens up to Merrin about his fear of losing himself to his obsession, and Merrin reassures him that, should he stray from his path, they will be there to guide him back. It's really after this that Cal slowly opens himself up to fighting the Empire a different way, and starts to let himself be happy. While Cal finally accepts that he can be happy, no, look at them, they're so cute. Never been this happy for a Star Wars couple. Finally, a Star Wars relationship that isn't littered with a million red flags. Ah! Get out of here, you. There's still a small part of Cal that just can't shake that obsession. After the final fight with Dagan, where Cal and Bode finally get their hands on a way to Tanalorr, Cal's obsession with fighting the Empire takes hold of him again. He sees Tanalorr as a way to gather allies without the Empire knowing, and then being able to take the fight to them. But it is this obsession that leads Cal to losing something he'll never be able to replace. Bode calls in the Imperial Cavalry when Cal makes it clear that his intentions for Tanalorr will be fighting the Empire, leading to Cal losing both Cere and Cordova. He loses his mentors, his guides, and now Cal has a new obsession, one backed even more by anger, pain, and suffering, and a need for revenge. They track Bode to an Imperial base where Cal proceeds to infiltrate it, just absolutely tearing through everyone in his path until he finds Denvik. And Cal is just straight up cold in this scene. I mean, he was already cool from the transition to Fallen Order to Survivor, but this is just a new level of cool as he learns that Denvik is the man responsible for the deaths of his family. Cal then sneaks through the base disguised as an Imperial officer, which I actually really like this section as well because you can stop and talk to a bunch of people in there, and it's a really cool bit of narrative design where you get to see why no one is stopping you. Nobody in this base likes or even knows each other. The Empire is that cold. But after this sneaking section, he finally comes face to face with Bode and Kata. This scene is honestly the most tense I felt in the entire story because while I didn't think Cal would do anything to Kata, the second Bode stepped into the scene, I was worried that this was going to get bloody because Cal is at his most dangerous here. He is completely driven by anger. Coming face to face with Bode, learning that he sold out everyone with the excuse of being a father, it just triggers something inside of Cal. And he starts to chase Bode through the facility. And as we do, we're asked to embrace the darkness.
No! Cal, no! No!
Cal becomes absolutely terrifying in this segment, and it kind of made me scared as I was playing. The dark side additions to our super is just a brilliant use of the dark side of the Force that tracks completely with what Yoda said about it as well in Empire. There's actually a really good detail where in the meditation spots, you'll actually reflect and foreshadow Cal's mental state and struggle with the dark side during this section.
Why is this red? I don't like that this is red.
The game becomes easier. The dark side is so seductive, and in-game, you can build a perk system that allows you to have quicker access to your super as well. The dark side starts taking you and Cal over, all the way up until you meet with Merrin and cross paths with Denvik again. Who, by the way, mad respect to him for getting dressed after we robbed him. And we get the do or die moment for Cal. This is it, the breaking point, whether he will succumb to the dark side or where he will stay in the light. Bode is out of his reach, but there's another man responsible for all of Cal's loss, pain, and suffering in the game right in front of him. Merrin is successful in pulling Cal back from the dark side, but the way our new super works is forever changed. It's a constant reminder that Cal is struggling with the dark side, that while he may have beat it here, he still hasn't beaten it completely. After escaping the Imperial base, Cal and company are able to fly through the Kobo Abyss to reach Tanalorr, and as Merrin and Cal make their way to the temple where Bode and Kata are, they discuss what they should do about Bode. Now that Cal has had time to sit and gain control over his emotions, he and Merrin agree that they need to give Bode a chance to surrender. They don't do it out of any sort of love, they do it for Kata, to make sure that she doesn't go through what they did. Cal and Merrin reach Kata at the entrance of the Jedi Temple, and I didn't say it before, but I will now. If anything were to happen to this child, I would kill everyone in the galaxy, and then myself. She knows what's up. Alright, she called Merrin pretty.
You're very pretty.
Aww.
Cal and Merrin approach Bode with the full intent of letting him live on Tanalorr with them, as the planet will be a haven for those hunted by the Empire. But that's just not an option for Bode, not even when Kata begs him to listen to Cal and Merrin. He's just too far gone. Cal and Merrin fight Bode, and in the fight, Cal embraces the darkness again, but notably he doesn't let it control him at the end like he did at the Imperial base. He pulls back from it all on his own, and the fight ends with Cal's blade to Bode's throat. But Cal won't kill him. It's over. And in the end, it comes down to blasters. Because these two men aren't Jedi anymore. They've adapted and changed. And Cal takes Bode's life, not because Bode betrayed him, but because Bode was a danger to them all. He had used the Force directly on his daughter, nearly killed Merrin, and had his blaster not been broken, he would have shot Cal. So Cal shot him to protect the lives of others. Though, that second shot, that was definitely personal. I'm not gonna lie. Even if Bode was put out of his misery, that felt personal. And now here Cal is, another fallen Jedi dead at his feet. Merrin takes Kata back to the ship as Cal prepares Bode's body for burial, and he treats him very respectfully. Merrin speaks to Kata in one of the most hauntingly beautiful moments in all of Star Wars.
How are you feeling?
Better. Thanks.
Good. We should speak. I was not much older than you when I lost my family. For many years I carried this pain. I did not want to feel better.
Why?
I thought if I let go of the pain, I would be letting go of the people I loved. But I was wrong. And one day, I met someone who also lost his family. Together we found another way to survive.
A Jedi funeral?
This pain is yours. It is part of you.
When my mother died, it changed Papa. And me too, I guess.
Yes. But it does not have to define you. And you must not let it consume you.
And her words here aren't just for Kata. They speak to Cal's journey through both Fallen Order and Survivor. In Fallen Order, Cal had managed to grow past blaming himself for his master's death, but he still let that loss and the loss of the Jedi Order define him and drive his actions. Walking away just isn't an option for him. He has to hold the line, because what does the sacrifice of his master and the Jedi Order mean if he just gives up and sticks his head in the sand? Cal has been defined by his loss for a long time, but as he stands over the 3 friendships he lost because of an obsession that was driven by that loss, he realizes he can't let it define him anymore. Cal has a new purpose now, one not driven and defined by loss, but driven by a desire to honor those he lost, to continue the work Seer was doing with the restoration of the Jedi Archive, the protection of those hunted by the Empire, and to guide Kata through the darkness she will undoubtedly face, just like Cal and Merrin faced when they lost their family. It's no understatement to say that Star Wars has been in a bit of a rut for the past few years. The Clone Wars, despite being cancelled initially, and Star Wars Rebels kept that fan base going with a lot of good Star Wars stories, and it seemed like the Disney-owned era of Star Wars was off to a good start. Unfortunately, this sequel trilogy that started off promising ended on a massive whimper. The shows that also started off promising, like The Mandalorian, had a much slower decline in quality and eventually fell victim to Disney's greedy little paws that changed the course of the show's trajectory. Or shows like The Bad Batch that are just painfully average with sprinkles of good episodes, to just baffling shows that have no reason being as much of a mixed bag or as bad as they are given the money behind them.
If I ever find one of these lying around again, I swear to fucking God, I will stop being so polite. Get the fuck out of my sight before I demolish you.
And finally, the games that also started off promising, like both the Star Wars Battlefront games, were panned because they came out of corporate greed.
Fucking surprise mechanic.
Seriously, go play Battlefront 2 now because they fixed the game and it's really good. I'm sad they dropped support for it. Just imagine how cool Cal would have been in the game. But there were Kyber crystals lurking in the caves beneath Disney Star Wars' failures. Rogue One and Solo are fun additions to the Star Wars movies, Rogue One especially. The Clone Wars came back for a final season that gave us the greatest story arc that was 7 seasons in the making. Andor swooped in and showed everyone just how engaging a slow-paced spy thriller set in the galaxy far, far away could be. And finally, the game series that rose from the ashes just as the exclusive deal between EA and Disney in 2019 was at its darkest, to deliver exciting and satisfying lightsaber combat and an incredible tale of a survivor who found his purpose again after so many years of hiding from it. Jedi Survivor took everything from Fallen Order and just improved on it. The gameplay is a massive step forward with so much polished variety in its combat, enemy, and level design that it's almost insane to me that this game was only made in 3 years. While those years are definitely felt in the performance of the game, with the occasional frame drop for me and crash on console and, well, the PC port. Despite those performance issues, the game is still just that good. 5 combat stances where each one is completely viable to solo through the whole game with, a perk system that allows you to craft Cal to your specific playstyle, cosmetics that let you roleplay as your favorite Jedi or bounty hunters, both new and familiar worlds to explore that always offered something new to the Star Wars galaxy, and finally, a protagonist and antagonist so well realized in the story that it just feels like Star Wars and hits you in all the best ways. Cal, while he already was a great protagonist in Fallen Order, had so much work done for him in Survivor that his story and character is easily one of my favorites, if not my favorite in all of Star Wars. And the best part of it all is that it's not over. There's at least one more game coming from Respawn that will follow Cal and his journey, and it's the most excited I've ever been for a Star Wars product since I was a little kid waiting for my family to sit down around the TV so we could watch The Empire Strikes Back. And all of this is for a new story. There's no reliance on fan service to drive the story, and when there is fan service, it's so well integrated that it just feels like another part of the galaxy. Respawn knows exactly what they are doing with Star Wars and with Cal, and I can't wait to see more from them. Wow, hey everybody, so you made it to the end of the video. Thank you for watching and listening to my ramblings about why I love a stupid Star Wars game about space wizards. And welcome to the first video of Zero to Hero Productions. I'm glad to have you all here. I'm talking a bit quieter because everyone in my house is asleep and I'm editing this at 1:30 in the morning to try and get it out as soon as I can. So thank you for watching my video, and I hope you stick around because I'm going to be having a lot more videos about video games and some other stuff about Star Wars, going from the perspective of a narrative designer. So stick around, and I hope you enjoy my content on this channel. I enjoyed making this video, even if the process to make it was so taxing. You don't even know. There were so many times I restarted the video because my editing program was being finicky and I lost progress on my computer and my computer crashed and I had to go fix it. My external hard drive had issues. It was a whole thing. So thank you for watching and listening. Let me know down below what you liked the most about the game or my video if you think I did a good job. And give me a like, give me a comment, subscribe. I already said comment, but yeah, thank you. And I will see you guys in my next post.